Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 34 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien, that's me, and our special guest for today, Brian A. Prince, who's going to be answering our questions today. Brian, please say hi, introduce yourself, and give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do before I shoot some questions.
Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much, Louis, for having me. My name is Brian A. Prince. I am many things. I think I'm best known as the creature suit actor who played the Predator in the 2018 film
Mm,
The Predator. And other than that, I've been doing parkour for 15 years at 6'10".
right.
And then I also do a lot of illustration and art. And so I think a lot of people know me from that. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's kind of like the three big things I do: art, acting, and parkour.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I mean, before the podcast, I'd usually do quite a bit of, back research on people. And I mean, looking at your IMDb, you've got stuff about Black Panther in there, you've got stuff about the Predator, it's all really impressive stuff. And, you're doing parkour. And I think we have a connection as well with, the Stora Boys and
Yeah,
Dom
store.
Tomato as well, who I had a good episode with as well. So
Yes.
yeah, I think we're this was meant to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. As a parkour athlete, like I gotta say, like to be included at all with like Dom and then like Store, I'm like, wow, really? Like me? That's awesome. Like genuinely like flattered by
I
that.
mean,
So that's really cool.
I mean, dude, you could do the stuff that you did in a predator suit. So I mean, it's natural to be included with those boys. So anyway, you know what? You've got such an impressive, career, behind you and ahead of you, and I can't wait to ask a few questions. So if you're good to go, man, should we jump into question one?
Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's fire away. Right. So for question number one, tell me about your backstory. So how did you get inspired to start doing parkour? How did you progress with it? And how did it lead to getting these fantastic acting and stunt roles at the movies?
Oh wow, that's a good question, and it's all strangely entirely related. So I started doing parkour in 2008, and that was like a funny time in history, just because like YouTube kind of sucked, it was still like 480p for everything, and so parkour at the time was mostly forums.
Yeah.
So there was like the American forum, and there was like a Southeast American forum. But what happened for me was it was like a kind of a two punch, where the first thing that happened was I saw Casino Royale, the James Bond movie with Daniel Craig, the first Daniel Craig movie, and there's the scene with Sebastian Foucault in the beginning where Daniel Craig's chasing after him, and Sebastian Foucault is one of like the founders of parkour, and he's phenomenal. He still looks exactly the same all these years later, which is crazy. And watching him do parkour in that movie was just like mind blowing to me at the time. I think partially just because like seeing how well the routine was. I think a big part of it too is that he was black, and that was just really cool for me to
Mm,
see. And so I was just like really blown away by that, and it really stuck with me because I really like platforming video games. And at the time, whenever a game had parkour in it, like they didn't call them parkour, they didn't call parkour in the games yet. Like now they
sure.
do, but at the time it was just like how the characters moved, and I always loved that. So I was really drawn to movement like that, and so seeing it on the screen was really cool. And then the second thing that got me was it Ninja Warrior. Before Ninja Warrior was this big thing that it is now. It was like just a
Mm,
Japanese game show, and the American they would show it on G4 in America, but it was still like the Japanese show. And so they did a contest where they sent three athletes over to compete in the Japanese show, and all three of them were parkour athletes, and watching them just like destroy the course was so cool,
mm.
and that just really got me. And so in my life at the time, I had just kind of quit playing basketball. It's like a whole story itself, just like being tall and
Yeah.
playing basketball. It's very expected, but with the expectation comes expectation.
Yeah.
and and it's just it's just a lot for me, and like people would kind of expect me to be this phenomenal athlete, but no one would really like work with me on it. And so I don't know, I didn't really have like a love for it, which felt wrong, but it just was where I was at. And so I didn't want to play basketball anymore, but I wanted to do something for me. I wanted to do something active. And so when parkour was really like, it was really calling to me, but I kept not pursuing it because I just felt like I couldn't. Like I was like, oh,
Mm,
I'm 19. Which felt old at the time, as being that age does.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I'm
20. I
33
know how it
now.
feels, but I really do.
Yeah, you get it. You're like, oh my god, I'm almost 25. Like, which
Yeah,
then you hit 30 and you're like, oh, I'm fine. I have all this time.
yeah.
But yeah, I was like 19, and I just was like, I don't know. I was angry, and so I wanted to do something for me, and I just kind of had this like I don't know. Can we swear in the show? This is
Go for it, man.
yeah. I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this shit. I really want to do this, and so I just went out and I started learning parkour on my own, and this is before gyms, before classes. So everything I was learning were these long write-ups on the forums of like tutorials, and I bought like a special pair of parkour shoes by K Swiss, and I was like
Oh,
so excited
yes.
about it. And basically, I just went out to this park and started jumping off of the playground. Um, and yeah, I was hooked. Like my body was sore as shit, but I really liked it,
Mm-hmm.
and I just never stopped at that point. And
Fair play.
I traveled around, I met people, I kept doing it. And so what ended up happening years later was I graduated from art school in Atlanta, and this is when like the Atlanta movie boom kind of started.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
all of these films started popping up. And I had a friend who I did parkour with, Max Calder. He's a really cool guy. And one day Max was just like, I'm gonna be a stunt man. And we're all like, sure, Max. And yeah, he just kind of did it. Like he's like the definition of a doer. He just does the thing he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so between him and other people, I just started beating all these stunt people. And eventually I was at this point where I was done with school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, let me try stunts. And I just was right place, right time, knew how to talk to people, which is a skill I had
Mm.
developed throughout art school. It's like networking and making friends. And I just talked to the right people, and I ended up getting a job um, on this movie called Cell with like
Okay.
Samuel Jackson and John Cusack,
Ooh,
and
not
a
bad.
bunch of it was fun. A bunch of friends and I got to be these like parkour zombie type characters, and that was like a really fun day. Um,
Mm.
and so we did that. Actually, I think it was a couple days, but we did that, and then like after that, I ended up working on like a Tyler Perry show, which was funny because they didn't even need me. I was too tall for the job. So I mean, I got paid, and it was great, but it was just funny. And so after that, I just kept getting lucky, you know, like I kept meeting people and talking to people, and I got to work on Captain America Civil War, got to work on Walking Dead. And then what ended up happening was I had moved to Seattle because I wanted to do more parkour. So I was working at the parkour gym out in Seattle.
Mm.
And I just was doing a lot of parkour and posting it online all the time. And I got lucky, and the stunt coordinator for Predator just called me and was like, "Are you really 6'10" and do parkour?" And I was like, "Yeah, who is this?" Because I had no idea who was calling me. It was
Hey,
Aiden
Brian.
Bennett.
Yeah, we have an alien that needs to jump around like crazy, and we thought, you might be a perfect fit for it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
well, it's funny because and this is pretty standard. They don't really tell you what you're going to
Mm.
be doing. A lot of
Okay.
movies have code names, and then they don't, like, until you sign an NDA, they don't tell you anything. And so he was
Right.
just like, I'm a stunt coordinator for this movie, and like I need a tall guy that can do stuff. And I was like, okay. And so I sent him some film of me doing stuff, and then they flew me to LA. And then when we get to LA, the audition was at the Tempest Free Running Academy, which is funny because I'd never been. I'd always wanted to go.
Oh, same.
So I was just like, cool.
Yeah.
And then they were like, yeah, you're auditioning for the Predator. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Like
Jeez.
I remember being like, I'm not gonna get this. Just because like that, you know, I'm working minimum wage. I'm not about to just jump into the Predator suit. But to my advantage, I think one of the biggest advantages I had in that audition was I genuinely didn't think I was gonna get it. And not like in a negative way. I just didn't
Yeah,
I
no
don't want to say I didn't
expectations. Yeah.
care. I had no expectations, you know, and so I had fun with it. And so I had fun with the audition. It was at the parkour gym, so I got to do a lot of parkour in my like creature movement routine. I wish one day I could
Mm.
get like a film of that audition because that was probably one of my favorite like lines I'd ever put together.
Right.
Because yeah, this is big back when like the NAPC like SPL stuff was like starting to get more popular, and so I would go to the competitions that they would host in Vancouver, and that was like their format was the skill, speed, and the style. And the style format, and I guess it's pretty common now in competitions, in parkour competitions, where basically you link together a bunch of movements
Mm-hmm.
seamlessly in the form of like a parkour line, and then you kind of like end it. It's like
Yeah.
trying to write a really concise poem, you know. And so I basically turned my Predator audition into a parkour style line, but instead of flips, I would throw in like creature movements and roaring and stuff like that. and they fucking loved it apparently, because then the next day they called me and they're like, "Hey, you're the guy. We want you to play the Predator." And I was like,
So
"What?
cool.
No." That was cool because like I just wasn't expecting it. But even then, they told me I was going to be the stunt double Predator,
Mm.
and I was like, "Okay, cool, cool." But then like 6 months later, when we go to Vancouver to film, I was like, "Who am I doubling?" And they're like, "Nobody. It's you. You're
It's
doing
you,
the
man.
whole
It's you.
thing." And I was like, huh? No. And so I was just like really caught off guard by that. And it was a lot of me having to learn how to act and creature work and do all this
Mm.
stuff on the fly. And it was really fucking fun, man. Like parts of it sucked, to be
Yeah.
honest. But at the end of the day, it was a really cool experience. And I'm really glad I got to go through it. It was phenomenal.
Right, I got to ask it. There's this question burning on my mind right now. Listening to this now,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering because you didn't know you were going to get that role. You didn't even know flying out there that it was going to be the Predator or anything. So I've got to ask, when you found out that you got that role, how exactly do you tell your family that you're going to be playing the Predator, and what was the reaction like to that?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, like yeah, you just call I called them and I was like, "Hey, I got a role in this movie." And they were like, "Oh, what is it?" And I told them. And like to be fair, my parents didn't really get it.
They
They were
didn't know the
kind
Predator before, really, did they? Then,
like I
or
think they had heard of it, but they weren't like, "Holy shit." They were like, "Oh, cool." I think, like
okay,
and that's fine. Like it's a very parent reaction, but like my mom was freaking out just because she was happy that
yeah.
I was in a movie, and I'd immediately tell her to stop calling people because she immediately just started calling and telling everybody.
Every mum is the same. We have the
I
same mum,
know,
literally.
right? Yeah, and I had to be like, "Mom, stop telling people," because like I wasn't allowed to tell people yet.
Yeah.
But then telling friends was really fun because I called my buddies in Atlanta and I was like, "Hey, I got to roll this movie," and they're like, "What is it?" I'm like, "I'm the Predator," and they're like, "What the fuck?" And like that was exciting, like getting to
Mm.
tell, or like parkour people, like everyone in parkour that found out was really supportive and really cool.
Brilliant, man. That's a great story and stuff. I mean, you know what? I mean, not many people know this, but I had a little flick for a few months at parkour and stuff when I was a bit younger. And to be
Oh,
honest,
sick.
I was 6'3", and I felt like I was looking like an octopus falling out of a tree half the time. To be honest, doing most of these
Yep.
things, and just wondering, I was 6'3", and I felt like that. You're 6'10". Did you ever find that was quite, did you find that quite difficult at times, doing parkour? Was that actually an advantage for you and stuff? I mean, I can imagine for jumps and stuff, it definitely helps a hell of a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question because people will ask me that a lot. They'll be like, "Oh, is
Mm,
everything easier or is everything harder?" And the answer is yes to both. Like
I can imagine.
there are certain movements like climb ups, um, and flips, like things that require leverage, like climb ups, are really difficult for me because I don't have like short arms that can like blast into a different position.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
then things that require like flipping are really tough because I think if you're 6'3", that you get this. Like you don't really, when you're really tall, you don't get the generation for that flip until like some time later.
Mm,
Like it takes a while for your legs to like wrap in and everything to kind of fly into a tuck. Um, so like learning flips was really, really hard. Once I kind of figured out that I can only do a few flips to this day. I never learned like twisting and
sure.
like crazy things like that. But the flips that I do, I'm very comfortable with. And it was funny because it took me a while to get comfortable with them because I just really had to trust like my body mechanics. But
Hmm.
it was really hard at first. One person I always give a shout out to is Tom Coppola. Uh, Instagram is Tom Jumps. He's one of the head coaches at Origins Parkour and in Vancouver. And Tom used to live in Florida and I lived in Georgia. And so we would see each other at like regional get-togethers and jams and stuff.
Yeah.
And Tom would always just be really supportive. He would always just be very like, "Oh, like if I felt like I don't know if I can do this because of my height," he would be very like, "No, I think you can." And like,
Ah,
but
that's
but
nice.
but and that's tricky because parkour people and trickers, they love to be very motivational, like motivating, like, "No, you got this. Ah, let's go, send it," which is
Yeah.
cool. But sometimes it can be annoying because like sometimes I don't got this. Sometimes I'm like, I have to figure out how this thing works for me. And when
Dude,
someone's yelling at you, like,
you're
"Just do it,
hyping
just
me
do
up to
it."
try and die.
Yeah, I know. It's like, dude, you're not gonna stick around when I'm in the hospital, so shut the fuck up. Like,
Yep. Yeah, perfect.
yeah. But I appreciate the effort. But one of the reasons I really give Tom a shout out is because I can remember specific moments in time where I would be at like a jam trying to do a thing, and it freaked people out that I was trying to do parkour, and people would just be like, "Oh, you're too tall to do parkour. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. You're too tall." I got that a fucking lot, man. Especially in that first
Mm.
2 years, I got that so much. Just a lot of negative kind of dowdy kind of things, and it was like annoying because I was like, "Yo, man, I just came out of basketball. I'm trying to do something for me.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not gonna support me, go the
Yes,
fuck
there's no
away."
place. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I didn't know how to say that at the time, so I just kind of take it like all pretty much up until Predator. I was very much a yes boy. I was just like, yeah, okay, all right, okay, I'll do that. And then Predator like taught me how to say no to things because I literally
Yeah,
never
taught you
would.
some combat moves as well by the looks of it. Hang on a minute. Yeah, you're saying that
Exactly.
to me, dude. I've literally got wrist blades right here. I've got plasma caster on my
I know,
shoulder.
right? Yeah,
Who are
I'll
you
blow you
talking to
up.
right
I'll
now,
rip your
dude?
spine out.
Oh
Yeah,
dear.
but Tom's cool because he would like he'd tell people to fuck off, and that was dope when you have someone in your corner like that. Like someone would be like, "You're too tall to this." He'd be like, "Hey man, shut the fuck up," and then I'd be like, "Oh, we're friends, cool." Because yeah, like being tall and doing parkour was weird, and
Hmm.
I had nobody to look at. Like there was nobody my height doing parkour, and so a lot of me figuring shit out was me figuring shit out.
Yeah.
And when I would learn something, it wouldn't be like follow this tutorial, watch this guy do it. It would be me being like, I fucking hope this works. I hope this doesn't kill me, you know. And then I did it. And what was really, really impactful, um, I remember this one day I was at Texas Jam in 2015, I think, and this kid came up to me and he was like, "Oh, are you tall trainings?" Because that's my parkour Instagram
Okay.
is tall trainings. And he was like, "Are you tall tradings?" And I was like, and at this time it was my at this time it was my YouTube. And I was like, "Yo, yeah, that's me." And he was just like, "Oh man, I thought I was too tall to do parkour. And then I saw your videos and now
I
I
was
do
just thinking
parkour."
this.
And I was like, shit. Like that really got me because it kind of started happening on a small scale where like taller people would tell me like, "Oh man, I loved watching your parkour because I didn't
You know
think
what?
I could do
It's
it."
funny you should say this kind of a story though, because literally when you were just saying what you were saying a moment ago, I was just thinking to myself that if you don't have someone to look up to in that sense, and there's no one else in the space doing that kind of a thing, then in its own sort of a way, you can see it as kind of like, well, am I doing the right thing? But at the same time, you got to think like, I'm the first person doing this, and that must make this, extraordinary. It must make it unusual, and there might be other people out there just like me, who are now going to look up to me in that sense. And I'm not going to be looking up to people. I'm going to be the first one to go and make a statement, move, and do it. And then, like you just said, you've got these stories of people who've actually gone out and done the parkour and been inspired by you. So, I guess that goes for most things, isn't it? If you have something unique about you and you don't think you can do something, and there's no one to look up to, you can go and do it, and then you're inspiring other people. And there's a first for everything, isn't there? And everything for everyone.
Yeah, oh for sure. Like it was really cool. I definitely, looking back, I had no idea that anybody would look at my stuff and be inspired to do it. And like I
Nah,
said, like
credit to
be
you.
like feeling like it's just a really cool feeling. It's very humbling and honoring at the same time because
Mm,
yeah, like I remember those days of training and being like, should I be doing this? And to be honest, like that is a place, like I'm not trying to sound negative, but like just being real, like I'm trying to get back to that place
sure.
because there's something about achieving some amount of success that scares you. And back in those days I had nothing to lose and I
Mm.
just did it anyway, and I was very confident. And I would like to get some of that confidence back.
It's gonna come. It's gonna come.
Yeah, yeah. So
Right,
yeah, that,
dude. Anyway, I want to hear some more details about the Predator, to be honest.
yeah,
So
let's do it.
what was it like to be, playing such an iconic character? And, tell me about this. What was it actually like trying to do the stunts that you do and all of that kit? I mean, how different was it from, training to, hang on a minute, I've got this giant mask on my head. What am I going to do now?
Yeah, wow, great question. It was fucking hard. It was really, really hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Really?
Yes, like by fucking far. And it was extremely validating. Like it was like I know it's funny telling people that. I'm like, it was really hard, and they're like, "Oh, so it sucked." I'm like, I mean, yeah, but also like like if you study for a fucking test and it's hard as shit, and then you ace it, like you feel good about it. Like it was like
Oh,
that
yeah,
kind of hard. Like I had to work for it, and there was nothing natural or easy about that job, about that
sure.
role. Um, and yeah, to your exact question, like so there was multiple heads with the suit. The suit weighs about 85 pounds. It's hot as shit because no
Mhm.
no heat is escaping. It's all trapped in the
Oof.
suit when the head is on. And it just covers every inch of you, and you're covered in sweat, and you can't really see. So if you have the face, like the predator with the mandibles face,
Mm-hmm.
that one's like it's heavy as shit. Like the back of your neck is like the back of my head is 11 pounds, so I'm holding that up. And then it moves. There's animatronics inside of it, so it's really loud. And you can see, but you're wearing these big green half dome contact lenses. And it's just it's difficult to see out of, but nowhere near impossible. It's just tricky, and that's
Yeah.
fine. The Predator mask, like the iconic Predator battle mask that I wore, fucking impossible to see out of. So first of all, my makeup guy, Mike Fields, he's a fucking boss. He had to cut so much out of that mask for me to see. He had to replace the lenses with different lenses. He had to make it so he could take them out. So on faraway shots, we could just take them out. Because when the lenses were in, they would just fog up. It was like a mirror after a hot shower, fogged up. I couldn't see shit.
Jesus.
And so we would have to take them out for far shots, but for close shots, I was just kind of blind. And so any scene you see me, so there's this like shot I really like from the movie where I blow the front door of the school up, and then I walk into the school and I put my hand on the ceiling. The reason I put my hand on the ceiling of the door is because I kept hitting my head on the ceiling because I couldn't see.
No way. Bit of trivia for you then.
Yeah, so I use my hands a lot. People are like, "Oh, I like the way you use your hands." I'm like, I fucking had to, because I couldn't see. And then there's the scene, there's a part right after that where I grab the lead actor by the throat and throw him into the wall. That was fucking terrifying because Boyd, the lead actor, it was supposed to be Brent, his stunt double, and Brent's dope. I work with Brent. I like Brent, and Brent's like, "All right, cool, we're gonna do it. I'm just gonna like, we'll sync up." And then Boyd, the lead actor, he's like, "No, I'm going to do it." And then everyone on set just looks at me. And the stunt coordinator, Marnie, was like, "Brian, you can't hit him in the face."
Jesus.
Like, yeah, I know. And she's like, "No, Brian, you can't hit him in the face." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." She's like, "No, Brian, seriously, you can't hit him in the face." Like, okay. And like they just kept telling me because like, I have these big inch-long fake nails on my glove hand, and if I like poke his fucking eye out, like we're fucked on a movie. You know what I mean?
God.
Like we're out millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's cool. I'll just try not to maim this guy that I have to grab by the throat and I can't see. So I remember, and this is where parkour really came in handy. Like I think a lot of people assume that parkour comes in handy because you do parkour, but where parkour for me came in handy on the Predator was the spatial awareness of everything. So
right.
that scene, I walk out from around the corner and I just grab him by the throat and I throw him into a wall. So I take off my mask and I just walk like I'm gonna do it over and over and over and over. And to the point where they're like, "Are you ready to go?" And I was like, "No, I'm not ready yet," because I needed to get it to a point where I didn't have to see. I could just trust my footwork. And so things like that is where parkour was the most helpful. Is like it just helped me. Like I really don't think I could have done that job without parkour because I used so much spatial awareness. And one of the saddest things I think for me personally is that like I don't think the people I worked with, like the producers and directors and stuff, like no offense to them, I just don't think they ever really understood how much I was doing on that.
I can imagine.
So I never feel like I got truly the the acknowledgement I really wanted for that. But I could be wrong. Maybe they saw it, but film sets are strange. Like people they just want to keep it moving, so you don't get a lot of positive acknowledgement.
Well, they get tied up in their own jobs, I guess, a bit, don't they? As well.
Yeah. Everyone's got shit they got to do.
I find it quite funny how you're telling about the the lack of vision, and I'm just thinking there's quite a few scenes there in high places, and I can't imagine a worse equation than terrible fogged up vision and high places. That sounds like an absolute nightmare to me. And one more question as well, just out of interest, just for me. There's a little scene in the movie where you get in the back of the truck for the soldiers, you tear them to shreds basically, and then the thumbs up comes out of the front of the window of the vehicle. Now, was that scripted, or did someone have this idea on the spot, or was that scripted?
That was scripted, and it was the worst 12 hours of my entire life.
12 hours? What?
Yeah. So that scene where I swing into the truck, it's like what, 6 seconds?
Yeah.
Worst 12 hours of my fucking life.
You're joking. 12 hours.
I'm not joking. So like from the beginning of prep time, when we were like in month 1, I remember the stunt guys running me through this fight. They're like, okay, you're gonna come into this truck, you're gonna hit this guy, you're gonna hit this guy. And it's a dope scene. Like it was a dope choreography that they came up with. These guys, it's their job, right? And so here I am, I'm 6'10". So I'm like, how big is this truck gonna be? And they're like,
such good
well, it doesn't really matter. I'm like, no, guys, I don't know if I'm gonna fit in this truck. And like, they kind of were like, don't be negative. I'm like, I'm not. Like, I just like don't know if it's gonna work. And they're like, well, we'll raise it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So like months later, we go to film that fucking scene. And I'm in my Predator suit, and they're like, "Oh, he's too tall to fit in the truck."
Oh, for God's sake!
Yeah, I am. Like, and so that was kind of a recurring thing, and I don't blame the stunt guys for this. It's just like, I really blame me not speaking up enough, and me like not having a harder like boundary, and like, because like no one wants to be the pain in the ass.
That comes with experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Like you can't fake that in your first movie. You have to learn it, because it's a subtle art of being like, hey, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like, I need you guys to listen to me right now. This isn't gonna work. And that's kind of what I needed to say, but I didn't have the skills or know how to say that. And so when we got around to filming it, basically, so 2 things. One, they tried to do this thing where I swung into the back from a wire, and it didn't really work because
that sounds so complicated.
And so when I was but when you do wire stunts, you have to wear a wire harness. It's called a jerk vest. It's really tight. It's very uncomfortable. I hate it. Everyone hates it.
Yeah.
But when I did Predator stunts, I had to wear it under my costume the whole day. So it's very uncomfortable. Like, it's very painful. It's very painful.
It does sound like a tough 12 hours.
So I'm wearing that, and then on top of that, I have to half squat the entire scene. And then it's dark, and I can't see because I'm wearing the battle mask.
You gotta find some dismembered arm as well at the end of
it. Yeah, so I'm uncomfortable. I can't see. I'm in pain, and I'm squatting the whole time, and it just was not working. Like, they kind of like, they had this whole idea of how it was gonna go, and
you know what?
Through a mix of them not really knowing how the suit was gonna look and me not really like standing my ground on how the suit was going to be, like, it just did not come together. So what they ended up cutting together in that scene is like such a small version of what we ended up doing. And then there was the whole thing with the hand that I was like, okay, I'll pick up this thumb, let's do it. And that was definitely in the script.
Okay, cool. I mean, yeah, that sounds like an absolute nightmare, 12 hours as well. But you know what? Maybe what you've done is you've missed the trick here. Maybe it was a secret conspiracy to actually try and get you to get this scene done as quick as possible by making it as uncomfortable and as inconvenient as possible. So you would want to get it done ASAP, Rocky.
Oh, maybe.
It could well be. You never know nowadays. So I'm just gonna throw that into the mix now. You're gonna be thinking about this all day now, aren't you?
Oh, I am. I am. There's more to that conspiracy than if that's the
for
case.
Sure. Right. Anyway, so for the third question today, then moving on to a slightly different subject. For upcoming parkour and free running athletes, do you have any tips for how they can get noticed and involved in the stunts and acting industry too?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, a lot of people will ask about, like, how do I get into stunts? I guess one personal answer I can give, and this is me like venting, sure. Don't message people with the expectation of them giving you everything, because one, ain't nobody got time for that. But two, it's just like if you're messaging your direct competition on how to be their competition, they're probably not gonna respond to it.
That's a good point.
A lot of people like to say like, oh, that's not an abundance mindset. You didn't have an abundance mindset. I'm gonna keep it 100. Those people are usually white. No offense. It's just like I had someone tell me that they were like, oh, you gotta have an abundance mindset. I'm like, yo, there's a lot more roles for you. Like, it's just real. It's real. It's about numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that being said, it's like, definitely go for it. Like, do ask people like, hey, what can I do? But like, I just say that because there's a subtle difference between like, if I hit you up and I was like, hey, what are tips you have for me getting into podcasting, versus like, hey, get me into podcasting. Like, those are two completely different questions. The other thing is like, you just got to go where the work is. the biggest cities in North America that film are LA, Atlanta, New Orleans, New York, and Vancouver.
Cool.
If you don't live in those places, you're probably not going to find work. I know a lot of people, they kind of don't want to leave the town they live in, but they want to do stunts and film. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. You got to go where the work is in order to do the
Yeah,
work.
you gotta commit.
Yeah. The other thing is, there's definitely like a handful of specialties. Um, there's a really good article online that maybe I can send you and you can link it in the show notes or something, because
Yeah, for sure.
when people ask me how do I get into stunts, I just send them the article because I'm like, hey, this person who has been working a lot longer than me and is much smarter than me and has been doing this a lot longer than me wrote this
Yeah.
whole article. I'm not going to try to sum up what they say, but it's basically like there's a handful of um what do you call it, like must have skills to
Okay.
learn, and then past that, and this is
Yeah, the
from
checklist.
me, is that I think it's good to specialize in a thing. Like, know what you want to do. I want to do creature stunt acting. I like working in a big sweaty fucking monster suit and getting to be a crazy ass slimy monster. I
Fair
love
play.
that shit. I want to do that. If I ever work like when I work in film, that is what I want to be doing.
Mm,
Um, and so because of that, that's kind of what I gear my training towards. Um, and it makes it a lot easier to turn down gigs that don't suit me.
mm,
Um, and so that's something I encourage people: find a niche, find a specialty, because that makes you stand out all on its own. You know, like there's a million like henchman number five types, but that do fight stunt choreography,
yeah.
and they're great at it. But you know, if you become the like I light myself on fire and do cliff diving person, you know, you might not work a lot, but the one time you do, it's gonna be fucking awesome.
Mm,
Um, and that's kind of my thing. I think it's not the most popular advice because yeah, it won't keep you working that frequently, maybe, but if you have all those other skills, you know, that should keep you working.
perfect.
And then outside of that, just and this is what I was telling a world chase tag teammate of mine this, and this is like a me thing is also is like go in hungry, obviously, um like do any work you can, but like don't don't let them hurt you, because they will. I'm not trying to sound shitty, but like at the end of the day, a movie or TV show, it's a business, and they what they care the most about is money, and time equals money, so they will try to rush you through something. And if you need another 5 minutes to be safe, you take that fucking 5 minutes and you tell
Yeah.
them, like, I need 5 minutes. This is a safety concern. You tell them that, and they will listen to you. They won't like it, but they will respect you more for it, because having
Yeah.
everybody wait 5 minutes is better than being fucking dead, or it's better than permanently injuring a part of your body that you'll never get to use at the same place again. And so that's a big thing for me. You can tell I'm getting a little heated talking about it. Like,
Mm,
like don't be a jerk, but like respect yourself enough to say, like, I am not comfortable with this, I need to have X, Y, and Z to make this a little more safer for me to do, because I did not do that in 2018, and I am regretting it to this day.
there you
And
go.
it will stick with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't draw like I used to draw. I can't do parkour like I used to do parkour, because I didn't stop and say, hey, ow, that hurt, I'm not
Mm,
going to do that again. I
sure.
need us to redo this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know how to say that, so I kept going and going and going, and then messed me up.
Yeah.
So
No, that's real advice right there, I think. And that's quite a deep thing actually as well. But I think that's actually something that a lot of people need to hear. And I find personally like there something clicked to me when listening to that, because I think that works in all, in other industries too, not just that one. I mean, when you're someone new to a scene, you feel like you're the greenie there. You're new guy, everyone's kind of looking down at you a bit, kind of shy about everything. You're not going to speak up and make yourself kind of noticed if something's wrong, are you? But when you go into a new level and stuff, you need to remember that everyone's just a sack of bones and blood and
yeah,
everything, and we're all the same egg, really, aren't we? Other than just a few things in society that make us seem like someone's more important than the other, but every individual person is exactly as important as the other one. So you really need to consider your body, and remember that you are your own person, and no one can force you to do anything. And it's so true in these industries that they'll stop at nothing. They don't care about the people most of the time, do they? It's about getting
no,
the shots, about getting the move in, eventually getting
yeah,
the bag, isn't it?
yeah, and they're not evil all of the time.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
they're not evil, but like it's just that it's kind of like full circle back to that thing we said in parkour when the guy's like, send it, bro, send it. It's like, you're not going to be with me if I'm in the hospital.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it comes down to, is like, if you get hurt on these productions, especially as a stunt person, like, I'm not trying to make them sound evil, but like, they won't care. They will replace you tomorrow. And when you're sitting there in the hospital and you don't have a leg, like, they're not going to really consider your feelings. And so
That's
it's
real
like,
talk.
I
Yeah.
tell people, like, they're not evil, like, it's a business, but like, value yourself, because no one's going to value you more than you value you. And you got to really know that you matter, and that, yes, working in stunts is cool, yes, working in Hollywood is cool, but like, man, take it from me, like, it's just not worth it. Like, I know a guy who got a massive brain injury doing stunts, and then he healed from it, and he was on a job, and the
Mm,
wire, everything was faulty, and he went, nah, and he walked out. And they were like, you're never going to work again. And he was like, I don't care, like, I'm not getting hurt again. And this dude
sure.
works now constantly. He's a stunt coordinator, he's a great friend of mine, Brent Bernard in Atlanta. He's a really good guy, and he still works. And so, like, there's this idea that, like, oh, but if I stand up for myself, I won't work anymore. And let me tell you, like, that is not true.
Yeah.
And it might be true for some people, but like, it's, your health is worth more.
Mm.
So that's like a big thing for me.
I'm thinking about the angles of this a bit now and stuff. And I actually think in some ways that, looking at, the people who are running these movies and who are, being a bit cutthroat, and just like you were saying, they'll have you replaced tomorrow. You look at those people, as an actor or as an athlete in any kind of way. And actually, you should sometimes take them as an example almost to use for yourself. That's their business, that's their job, and they're not going to sacrifice, and they're not going to go out their way for you or anything. They're going to have you replaced tomorrow and stuff, and that's their business. And as an athlete, parkour people are athletes, obviously, and someone doing acting in your industry, you're an acting athlete, basically, aren't you? And
Yep.
your body and your skills is your business, isn't it? It's like them. So you need to be as selfish as they would be towards you, and you need to take care of yourself and put yourself first as well, because ultimately, they wouldn't put their career on the line for it, and you shouldn't either, really, should you? So I think that's such a big thing for actors and athletes and stuff. So thanks for being totally real about that. I couldn't agree more, to be honest. Good advice, man. Really, really
Yeah,
good
thanks.
advice.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for asking. It's
No
definitely
problem.
something on my mind lately, so it kind of just came out of me.
I'm glad you can vent it. Right. So for the fourth and final question, kind of along the same line as this last one, but yeah, maybe slightly less deep subject. So for anyone out there who might be looking to start training parkour, what would you say to them to get them to pull the trigger and learn their first few moves, especially if they're quite self-conscious? What are some of the biggest benefits of getting out there and getting training, do you think?
Oh man, that's a great question. I want to be brief about it.
Sure.
It's like, oh, man, like, just do it. And
Nike, just do
this
it.
isn't even just parkour. Like, I have a lot of people that come up to me. So I'm an artist as well. I do a lot of illustration with art school. I know this seems like a tangent, but I swear it
I've
comes
seen
back
some
in.
of it. It's amazing.
Thank you. And one thing that breaks my heart is the amount of adults that have come up to me at a thing, at an event, at a party, and they go, "Oh man, I used to draw. I wish I stuck with it. I wish I could draw." And it's like, man, that shit bums me out. And because it's like, I have seen through my eyes, like, the amount of people who regret not doing a thing they wanted to do. And I've been there. I've also been a person who has not done a thing I wanted to do. And so whenever we are not pursuing a thing that we want to do, it's always like a what if. Um, and we're thinking more about the bad parts of it than the good parts of it. And it's
Mm,
easy to say, just be positive, think about what could go right. But it's like, what I would tell people, because I think that's difficult to be like, just do it anyway. Think about what could go right. So what I would tell people is, if you really want to do something, whether it's parkour or art or whatever, podcasting, and you're not doing it, I would really analyze, like, why you're not doing it.
mm,
Because as people, we don't do anything that doesn't benefit us. So if you're not doing something that you want to do, that means there's some kind of self-protection going on in why you're not doing it. So
yeah.
I would try to figure out, what are you protecting by not doing it? Sit down with that shit, go to therapy, write a journal. I don't care. Talk to a friend about it. Figure out what that's about, and then work your way into doing the thing, knowing where that self-protection defense is coming from, because that's going to help you stick to it when you're feeling like, maybe I should quit. Is this worth the time?
Yeah.
Because for me in parkour, like the worst part about parkour is you look fucking stupid when you start doing it. I'm sorry. Like
I
it's a
know.
it's a necessary part. It's a passage, a rite of passage where you look dumb. You're walking on
Yeah.
a rail, you're jumping over stuff, and people are like, "What is that person doing?" And you just gotta keep going. And eventually you start looking good and you're like, oh, great, awesome. And it's so nice. It's like growing out long hair. There's that weird in between phase, and that's
Mm.
just part of it. And so what I tell people is like, when you want to get into it, if you're worrying about looking stupid, it's like, sorry, like you're gonna look stupid. If you're that worried about it, figure out where that's coming from because it's probably not about parkour. Um, but yeah, that's probably the biggest advice I'd give to people. It's just
Mm.
like, accept you're gonna look goofy and surround yourself with some good friends that support you through that.
I think that's great advice. Not just because of parkour, but I think that's universal, really, isn't it? You know, for most things, you know, if there's something that you're kind of a bit conscious of, or you know, kind of restricting yourself a bit mentally and stuff towards doing it, I think that universally works towards most things, really, doesn't it? That advice, you know, of just really diving deep into the yourself and thinking, well, why don't I want to do this? And then asking people and making notes and stuff. That don't you think that works pretty much for most things, especially sports?
Oh yeah, I
Mm.
really do because yeah, like once you know why you don't want to do it, it's a lot easier to do it.
Yeah,
And I
you
know there's a lot of
diagnose it,
people
don't
who are
you?
like, yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who are like, don't think about it, and I'm not in that camp. I'm like, nah, think about
Yeah,
it.
for sure, yeah.
like figure it out. Why not? It ain't gonna hurt.
Well, there you go. Excellent stuff, man. And well, you know what? That is our 4 questions done for today, Brian. And
Yeah.
before we wrap it up, it is time for what I would love to call, as always, a shameless plug. So, Brian, I know you're working on some stuff, so feel free to take a minute and promote anything that you're working on, want people to take a look at, and just anything you believe in as well. And it will be in the description of the bio, whatever it is as well.
Yeah, the shameless plug. I love that.
It is.
So as always, my website is thebaprince.com, like TheBaprince. At the BA Prince is my Instagram, at the BA Prince is my Twitter, and my specifically parkour Instagram, which I haven't updated in a long time, is Tall Trainings.
Right.
One thing I really want to blast out to people is so before my injury on that happened in 2018, my Lovecraft Country injury. Before that happened, I was working on a graphic novel of a story called Manifester. It's something I've been working on since I was like 18. And I had a graphic novel book publishing deal with a big publisher, but because of the injury and just general pandemic
Mm.
stress, I had to quit it, unfortunately. And that was very hard for me, but I'm really glad I did it because the stress of having to get it done while injured outweighed the fun of it. So spent a lot of time healing, going through some life BS, and I took kind of everything I kind of went through in that time and I threw it back into the story, back into the characters. And one thing I always wanted from that story is I wanted it to become an animated TV show. That was always
Mhm.
the goal. And so a friend of mine that I've known since I was 9, he's a really good writer. His name's Andres Thomas. We got together and we decided to just go for it again. So we're creating an animated TV show pitch. We've already created the pitch, we've already created the pilot, and we're essentially trying to create an 8-minute animated episode
Mhm.
for the internet so we can prove to like producers that we have a good idea. Because every time people see our pitch, they love it, but like you just gotta prove it these days, unfortunately. And so what I need help with is I don't have a huge Instagram following, but I know a lot of people with big Instagram followings. And essentially, if I can get people to pledge to support it, um, I can more or less kind of borrow their audience. And
Yeah.
so I'm about to put out an Instagram post tomorrow explaining everything. And if
Brilliant.
people can just DM me or even comment and just say like I'm here for it, then I will put you on a list and I will show it to I will use it in our pitch data and say like we have a combined audience of X number of people. And so no money required, no follow required, none
Sure.
of the no algorithmic or financial thing required. All I need is a yes, I'm here for it, and I can add you to my list. And that way, what I can do is I can sell the pitch to producers and say this is our reach because that's worth a lot these days. And I don't have like Dom tomato numbers.
Yeah.
And I wish I did. This would honestly, if I did, we would be done by now. It's crazy to think to know that. And so yeah, that's my one shameless plug, is that if people can check out that Instagram post and just support what I'm trying to make. I really all of my efforts behind this show. I think it's going to be something enjoyable, and at the same time, I think it's something that a lot of people will be able to watch and kind of like get a lot of cathartic feeling from.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my plug.
Come on, guys. You know what? Listen to this guy. I mean, he's just sat on this podcast, giving us fantastic advice. You know, he's giving us great stories. He's a cool guy, you can tell. And, you know, come on, just get off your asses, hype this up a bit, yeah, because it sounds like a great project. And I want to see this guy doing well. So come on, guys, do me a favor. You know, I'm making the podcast, I'm editing it, I'm hosting it. You know, we've got Brian here who's been a fantastic guest for this episode and everything. So, you know, go and help him out. You know, links are going to be in the description on YouTube. You know, they're going to be in the captions and stuff on Spotify and Anchor, or wherever else you're listening in from right now. So, you know, go and help them out a bit. Anyway, you know what, Brian, you know, thank you so much for, you know, joining me today for the Talk4 podcast, man. This has been, you know, an absolute pleasure having you on. I really wish you the best for your projects and everything.
Thank you. Such a good time being here. Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor, and this was like the highlight of my week.
Fantastic. No, I'm glad I could make your week good, man. And anyway, as for you guys, you know, go and hype this stuff up now. I'm telling you right now, or else. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 34. And if you'd like to listen to our past episodes, go and have a look at our channels. And if you'd like to listen in for our future ones, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.